Right, I'm going to try and get through this in a one-off. This is the first time I've videoed this, so um, we'll talk about calories as part of these first four videos that I'm trying to get through to explain the basics of food and calories as a whole. And then we could, I'm not going to say get into the good stuff, but get into the slightly more complex issues when it comes to food and stuff. So, sorry if I'm sounding nasally, by the way. I've actually recovered from being ill, but I feel great today. But I've still got this really annoying voice on top of the usually annoying one anyway. There's no such thing as a bad food, all right? So there's only calories, and the way that it's sort of typical, I think we're kind of moving away from it anyway. But the way it was certainly said 20, 30 years ago, or maybe even so much 10 years ago, is that there's good and bad foods, and that's technically not true because good and bad are subjective. So it doesn't really mean good to one person doesn't mean it's got to be good for the other person. For example, there's a guy on YouTube, and specifically he talks about carnivore diet. He's a carnivore diet follower, and he keeps on talking about the shit ingredients in food, but shit means absolutely nothing because, again, that's a subjective term. There's people in if you've watched Anna Abroad with Carl Pilkington, he visits a tribe that worship cow shit, and they sell it in soap, and they sell it in I think they sell it in like perfumes and stuff. So shit means literally nothing because it's such an open term. Like that, it use shit to grow stuff in fields. So that's when social media really gets fucking annoying. But anyway, and he's an expert apparently. But so what we're trying to do is remove the negative associations with food. So again, try to remove the words like bad, naughty, and cheat. And again, you hear people say that, oh, I like a naughty girl, but another person might think that naughty girl's really fucking annoying. So again, it's completely subjective, and same with all the other negative words. So, but in saying that, that doesn't mean that you should just go away and eat whatever you want, because there is such a thing as a bad diet. So any sort of generic recommendation is eat single ingredient foods, and that still is the case, but it doesn't mean that you then need to remove these foods that are called treats or whatever. There'll be very few people out in this world that eat 100% clean foods, because one, it is really they can be really boring compared to what you could have. So, and two, I don't think there'll be that many people that are that anal about it, but I could be wrong. The thing about the sort of good and bad foods is you don't really have two throats coming down your neck, and it says, right, so say you had like chicken and chips, for example. The chicken doesn't go, right, we'll go straight to the muscles, and the chips then go to like your hips, and say, this has got to store here, but the chicken's got to store in your arms or your muscles. Like, it doesn't work like that. And there'll be people out there that argue, well, chips is just technically potatoes and oil, and they're both good things, which we'll all get to, because technically all that food is, if there's a food that's got combined ingredients, it's technically single ingredient foods, single ingredients all combined into one. So we'll talk about that in a minute anyway. There's just, even though there isn't good or bad foods, there are more ideal choices than others, but that comes down to subject, like preference. So like a protein shake might be a better choice than a protein bar, but a protein bar might help people, like, say, right, I'm getting a bit of chocolate here, this will keep me on track for the rest of the day. So if you can, in your head, create that trade-off that you'd be happy with, then go for it. The funny thing is, a lot of people are happy to comment on your your diet. So if you put something on Instagram and say, oh, I'm eating this, and it's cheese and biscuits, for example, but you're still within the goals that you've set, and some fat fucker will be like, well, you can't eat that, and it's like, well, look at yourself, like, it's no as if you are following the guidelines you've created, you know what I mean? So social media is really hypocritical. So a lot of this sort of calorie thing comes down to you and only you, which again we'll get into later. But as I've said, lesser choices might be more ideal, and I'll give you an example of that. Sometimes I could have this is an example for me, obviously, but I could have a wrap for dinner with chicken and cheese and some salad, or I could just, sometimes I'm like, fuck that wrap off, and I'll have a couple of row like rice cakes, like Thai chili rice cakes, and it's the equivalent, and I've just said, well, I'd rather have these, and it's, again, that's trade-off, exactly the same calories, and I'm a bit obsessed with rice cakes now, but they're a good substitute for crisps. I think that's that's where I'm getting obsessive about them is. But anyway, obviously the quality and calories differ. So again, if you were how can I think, like a chicken breast, like protein bars aren't bad, but there's nothing wrong with a protein bar. But if you compare like a chicken breast, which has got all these quality ingredients in it, to like a protein bar, the quality in the chicken breast has always got to be better. Here's a better example, actually. If you make a chicken sandwich in your house, or if you buy it from Tesco, if the calories are equated, the one that you made at your house is likely to be better because it's made from fresh chicken. It's probably got to be more filling. It'll have, if you used like brown bread and all that, like you can make it a bit of a better choice than the one in Tesco's, just for example. So even though the quality differs, the numbers are more important. So the calorie numbers are more important. And if you go online, I'll tell you about this guy actually first. Dr. Mark Haub. I think it's Hobb. He is a professor in Kansas University, or he was a professor. I don't know if he's still there, but he became famous because he ate a diet only off. He called it the convenience store diet, but online they called it the Twinkie diet. And when like mainstream media got in touch with him, they called it the Twinkie diet. And if you go online, you can read it on there. But if you can be bothered listening to him on podcast, you get a really in-depth talk about it, or he chats about it a lot more in depth. But he basically ate 1,800 calories a day. He created an experiment in his class, and he says to them, "I'm going to eat 1,800 calories or less every day, and I'm going to see if I can lose weight or see what happens." And I believe the students picked the food, and it was from like a 7-Eleven. So it was like a typical like petrol station choice of foods, and it was only like crisps and sweeties and things like that. It wasn't like, it was just like snacks and confectionery sort of stuff. And the only thing he had was a whey protein shake, a multivitamin, and a tin of vegetables every night. And I think he only had that in front of his kid because he didn't want his kid to then think that it was all right to eat these kind of foods every day. And I think he had about 4 portions of these sweeties every day. But again, he only ate less than 800 calories. And after 8 weeks, he lost 12 kilos. So that just goes to show, despite the calories, despite the quality, the numbers are more important. And the other thing about that experiment was he improved all his blood markers. He got his bloods taken before and after. So he came out with it and was like, I do not do this. I don't recommend it. It was absolutely terrible. Like, it was a very bad idea. Sorry, I thought the microphone had dropped. It was a very bad, it wasn't, not that it was a bad idea, it was an experiment, but it doesn't recommend it because it was a diet very low in nutrients and stuff like that. So, but that's now been taken into, if you go on YouTube and you Google like Jordan Syatt, he's done it on ice cream and like McDonald's and things. Thousands of people would have done it now, but it just goes to show that it doesn't matter the quality of the calories, it's the numbers that are more important. But at the same time, you still want the quality in there. Another sort of funny example, I was thinking about this before. Sorry. Do you remember the guy on Super Size Me? He ate the Big Mac burgers every day. Well, he's ate apparently 35,000 of them since that was filmed. And he's, again, this is just an individual person, but he's ate one of them every day, and apparently McDonald's is terrible for you. But he's not even in bad shape. But that's just a kind of another example of if you maintain the calories, doesn't matter. And I believe he skips breakfast so he can fit that in, but it just goes to show. I wrote this down here actually, I meant to touch on it somewhere, but there's different calorie numbers there. That even though the quality's differed here, and there's definitely better sources, they're all kind of similar. The reason why I put lettuce in there is lettuce apparently has no nutritional value to it, but so that would technically mean that there's no point in eating it. But lettuce is brilliant for bulking out of food and not even adding any calories to it. So, but the reason I put like the likes of salmon in that there, salmon's very popular with people at dinner. I don't know why, but if you were asking me, I'd rather have something leaner, like chicken. But again, this comes down to preference. If you're on the go and you can't have a chicken breast or your salmon, you get a protein bar, exactly the same calories. You like to have a little less protein in it. A little less quality protein in it, but it's still helping you maintain you towards your goals. And again, if worst comes to worst, like there's crisps and ice cream there as well, but you can still fit them into your day, providing that your calories are equated. Like I said, your calorie and sources are massively, to wrap this up, you'll be glad to know, calories and sources are massively individual, and preference is massive as well. So you eat how you want to eat, but as long as it's mostly single ingredient foods, you'll not go wrong. But you need to keep in mind in calories, and that's maybe why you think you're eating really well, but you're still not losing weight, for example. So you might be having like the freshly caught salmon and the chicken thighs and all that shit, but that can all add up to a calorie number that means you're not losing weight. And the sort of the massively individual stuff, if you think of the likes of Eddie Hall and Brian Shaw, they guys are they have been world's strongest men. I don't think they're at the moment, but they did eat like 12,000 calories a day. And then like Michael Phelps and The Rock, they all eat. I mean, if you were to say if you saw like Eddie Hall and Brian Shaw used to eat half a cheesecake every night to get to their calorie goals, to maintain, so they were still on course to gain weight or recover or whatever. And if you say to them, that's not a good source, you need to be eating lettuce and chicken breast and salmon, they would tell you to fuck off. So that's when you should be allowed to tell other people to fuck off as well. If they say you should be eating this, tell them to fuck off. But that's just a point in saying it's massively individual. There was a point years ago when I had my coach, I had to eat 6,000 calories a day because I was walking about 30,000 steps a day. And I remember I had to eat 4 wraps and put 2 bits of bacon on each of them with some cheese for my lunch, because that was, I think that was about 1,000 calories, just because I needed to get it in. I probably got my MyFitnessPal, I could probably still find and see what else I was eating, but I do remember eating Asda donuts as well, because I needed to get these calories in. But again, who cares what you eat as long as you're making progress. I actually have a friend who struggles to gain weight, and it got to the point where he couldn't carry on eating like the single ingredient foods, so you had to start putting like oil in his shakes and cream in them and all that stuff to try and up his calories. And again, it's highly individual, and he's still progressing, so who are we to say that's completely wrong. But last point to make is food is actually, if you think about food or these caloric foods like pizza and burgers and stuff, especially fresh ones, they're actually just single ingredient foods combined. So if you went to like Italy and asked for a pizza there, or America, wherever, I think pizza was actually made in America, but that'll just be flour, oil and water that they'll just make the base on, and then fresh vegetables on top of that. So technically pizza over there is healthy. Or if you think about a homemade burger in America, again for example, if they've made that bun from fresh, that'll just be flour, water and yeast and like a couple of ingredients combined to make technically bread. So going by the logic of good and bad, that's technically a good source, isn't it? But again, it just comes down to calories. I hope that made sense. If not, tough shit because it's staying in. But I think I've kind of made my point. I'm going to go into the calorie stuff later on, a bit more detail. But this is just a general overview because it's actually quite a hard topic to talk in 10 minutes, if I've even done that. But hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next video.